Hello, vinyl community. This is Sean, the Vinyl-Dreamscape. Um, it's Saturday, late afternoon. I thought I would make another video. Wanted to talk a little bit about a band. I was listening to them today. It's not like a regular listen, but somebody I think that you have to grab those albums and put them on when the moment is right. So they're not like an everyday listen kind of band. But there was a time when, back in the clubbing days and stuff, we used to hear quite a bit of what I kind of loosely refer to as industrial music. Not the true industrial bands were like Throbbing Gristle and Cabaret Voltaire and stuff like that. But emerging from that was another band. By the way, if anyone's wondering what I have on in the background, I picked up a single today. It's a house music single, Steve Crawford. It's kind of new. It's been out for a little while now. It's pretty good. I went to there's a store here in Detroit called Threads, which is it's a used clothing store, and they also sell a lot of 12-inch house and techno singles, and I try to make a pilgrimage over there at least once a month or so and check out what they got, and I always come back with a bag full of stuff, so but that's not really what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about is another band that I think a lot of people, especially in the States, I don't think that you hear too much about. Industrial music band, again, for lack of a better term to use for them, called Laibach. And some will be familiar with this band. They never really had a hit. There was a kind of club hit back in the day, back in the early 80s and into the mid to late 80s. You still heard it, called Life is Life. And Opus Dei, this is probably the album most people remember them for. A lot of criticism of them early on. They toyed with a lot of imagery that people misinterpreted one way or the other. Some people misinterpreting it as being that they were somehow spokesmen of the far left or the far right, and neither of which is true. And but the band is very coy about clarifying their position on anything political, and that's intentional. A lot of the band's imagery does toy around with these kind of Opus Dei. It's very there's a lot of images. I won't even show you some of them on the back cover and on the label of the album that could be easily misinterpreted as looking like other symbols of one party or another, whether it's the hammer and sickle or whether it's other right-wing symbols. But the band's intention was never to promote those things, but actually quite the contrary, which was to draw some equations between the far left, the far right, and what we inaccurately think of as kind of democratic capitalism, and that the differences between those things are maybe not as far apart in practice as we really think that they are. That's kind of complicated. It's the idea that corporate capitalism and its use of symbols. Think of Amazon and the symbols that they use, and why are these so important to a big corporation like Amazon, that they promote these things? They're everywhere. You drive around the United States, and they're everywhere, and we're accustomed to it. We don't even think it's odd or strange, But we would think it's odd or strange if we saw, a hammer and sickle flying around every corner. We would wonder, oh wow, these people they're brainwashed and they're propagandized. But what Laibach is trying to insinuate in this crossing of these things and equating them together and being a little bit coy about where they're coming from, is to try to let us know that maybe there's not such a huge difference in these things. The band itself, a lot of the tracks have a kind of militaristic beat to them, kind of anthemic. Subject matters are usually related to, the motherland and the fatherland, and these kind of references to nature, and it's the same kind of things that a lot of advocates on the extremes often advocate. And you can even see by the cover, they blur a lot of interesting different images. And the band sings in both English and in their native. It's Laibach is a Yugoslavian band we're born from Yugoslavia, what used to be Yugoslavia. And a lot of Americans would misunderstand the language as being either both. I've had people tell me it sounds like Russian or it sounds like German. And that's a bit of a misinterpretation. But Americans tend to put things into these very broad categories, and we classify them that way. And Laibach takes advantage of that ignorance on our part, that we don't understand those differences and that we react to them. And for example, there's a cover, the band does a cover of the Queen song, One Vision. And if you're familiar at all with the song, you know that the lyrics of it, if you've ever really thought about the lyrics of it, we dismiss it. Freddie Mercury sings about, one world, one vision, and we tend to interpret that through the eyes and the ears of kind of like, oh, we're all coming together into this liberal democracy, and we all have one vision of equality and justice for everyone. In the hands of Laibach, they change this, and they help us understand that those same exact words could so easily fit into either the far right or the far left. And that what we think of as an innocent pop song has a sinister underpinning to it. That doesn't mean that Queen is sending out secret messages or anything like that. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. But they demonstrate that it's real easy to switch categories, and that maybe we're not so far removed from the kind of, I don't want to use the term brainwash, but that we're not so far removed from being influenced by things the way we look at other people around the world as, oh, it's a dictatorship, and it's a this, and it's a that, and there's symbols of their president hanging on the building side of buildings. And if you think about driving around in any American community, you don't get too far without seeing an American flag just about everywhere. Nothing wrong with it. We do it all the time. I'm just trying to say that those symbols can be misinterpreted. Anyway, Laibach, interesting band that at the time I used to hear them quite a bit. This album was on a label called Wax Trax, which was out of Chicago. And Wax Trax record carried a lot of I'm not quite sure how to put it, post-industrial bands like Ministry and Skinny Puppy was on Wax Trax for a while, and a lot of the offshoot bands that were related to both of them. And this is just an interesting area. Now, I know a lot of people in the VC are really into the Beatles, and I think the Beatles are a fine band and good and everything. It's not a regular listen for me, but one of my favorite little pieces of Beatle related music is Laibach related. So the band, and I think the album came out in 1988. Don't quote me. They did this album called Let It Be. And these are, and you can see again their way of taking what we think of as the innocent and turning it into something, much more sinister by a play on the Beatle album covers, and how different it can come out when just tampered with just a little bit. Let It Be is a fun and interesting listen intellectually. Get Back, Two of Us, Dig a Pony, I, Me, Mine, Across the Universe, dig it. If you haven't heard this record and you're a Beatles fan, you might want to check it out. There's the track listing there. My favorite is probably One After 909. The rhythms of it fit the Laibach style, and it's kind of really rudimentary, militaristic, with this guttural voice, taking the Beatles song to a place that I don't imagine Lennon and McCartney ever imagined that it would go to. It's a pretty interesting record, and one I think that, I think this might be, in the end, Laibach's maybe largest selling album, just because it is have a Beatles relationship to it. The band still records today, and they're still controversial today. Recording, I think on their last album a couple of years ago, they did the North Korean national anthem was on one of their records, and they still, I think that I had gotten an email recently about them doing something just recently. So I think they tour Europe. They very seldom come over to the United States. And again, their concerts have sometimes been marred by even their own audience misinterpreting where the band was coming from. And it's a little piece of music-related history that I think that doesn't get talked about too much. In the end, if you study a little bit about where they're really coming from, I think most people will find that it's actually an attempt to warn us a little bit, to not get too comfortable with where we're at and where our nation is at, and that those things can very easily slide into a place that you don't want to go, and you don't see that coming. So, ARVC, there's my Laibach. If you're inclined, look for these two albums. They're pretty tough. These are originals. I don't think that this might have gotten a repress a few years ago, but finding originals is pretty tough. Even this one that used to be, this was dollar bin fodder for ages, and now I just noticed that suddenly people are starting to find it or understand what it is, and the prices are starting to go up and up. This is a lot of fun. If you're just inclined to listen quickly, go on YouTube and listen to One After 909 by Laibach. You'll get a kick out of it. If you want to dig in a little further, go listen to their cover of Queen's One Vision or Life is Life, both of which are on Opus Dei, and you'll find yourself committing to something that's a little bit different and a little bit interesting. Anyway, thanks VC. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you soon.